for the Cooks and boys over at Pro-Am Sports. Why do you not have locks of hair available as memorabilia?
They probably had a few people coming in with these stories, I would assume, over the years.
Yeah, that's right. Everything you got going on at Pro-Am Sports, including car flake season being just around the corner. Proamsports.ca, where I'm assuming game-used player hair coming soon in honor of Wendell Clarks' hair in an envelope guy. Wow, that's quite something. All right, let's bring in Darren Dreger this morning. Dregs, what do you think of that story? A guy carrying around Wendell Clarks' hair in an envelope.
Yeah. Well, I don't know why I'm thinking this, but what's the show? Is it called The Pawn Shop or whatever, based out of
Pawn
Vegas?
Stars. Yeah.
Pawn Stars, yeah. And for whatever reasons, you guys are talking about this, I'm thinking to myself, there's got to be either something online or at a big pawn shop like that pawn shop in Vegas where you can go in and for, I don't know, $50,000 buy a lock of Elvis Presley's hair or something like that. I would bet that's a thing. So why wouldn't it be a thing in the NHL? And you know, I've spent a lot of time around Wendell. Not sure I would want his hair, but I mean, come on, I guess if you're gonna start somewhere, why not start with Wendell Clark, good old Saskatchewan boy?
You know what I want to see when that guy pulls that out at a party. I want somebody to be like, prove to me that it's Wendell Clark's
DNA
hair.
test,
That could be anybody's hair in that that envelope, right? You never know.
Saying that, how much hair do you think Wendell Clark pulled out over the years? Not out of his own head. Out of
other people's head, yeah. That's a good point. Definitely. There would have been a lot more hair to pull back then, too. So, that's funny. Darren Dreger with us for Pro-Am Sports this morning. I've got right here in my notes the Oilers' pursuit of the Vancouver Canucks. And it's funny because after dropping that game to Dallas last week, we saw a steady diet of texts from people who were like, well, if Dallas does this to them, are they really true contenders? Then they go out and put together a great performance against Colorado, get 2 more needed points against the Calgary Flames, and they have their own destiny in their hands here, Dregs. I mean, they've got a game in hand, and they play the Canucks once. If they take care of business, they could track down first. It would be quite an accomplishment considering where they were in late November.
No kidding. What a goal. And, you know, obviously anytime it's mathematically attainable, which it was when the Edmonton Oilers were in the doldrums early in the regular season, you have to give a team as talented as this the shot, and they took it. And, you know, there were some tough decisions made along the way, but the credit has to go to the players, you know, not just management for making the tough call on Jay Woodcroft and the coaching staff of the Edmonton Oilers. End of the day, it comes down to the players executing, and they've done that. I always felt, and I'm not going to kick sand on the Vancouver Canucks because they've had a terrific season, and there's no reason to bet against them at this stage, but I did feel like maybe they were overachieving by just a whisker. It's so hard to go wire to wire in the NHL regular season. It just is. You know, you go through the February blahs, you have streaks, you have pitfalls, you have all of that. And, you know, it just feels of late anyway that the Vancouver Canucks, they haven't come back to the pack. I mean, that's why, you know, when you win the games that you do early in the year, maybe even to the 2/3 point of the regular season, that's money in the bank. You can't take that stuff away. And that's why it's valued, the run that the Vancouver Canucks had for a good chunk of the year. But now maybe all of a sudden they're not as formidable. Really, really good team. But now maybe we can start to see, you know, is there weakness in their game? I mean, you lose a piece like Thatcher Demko for an extended period of time. Arguably one of the best goalies in the National Hockey League. And maybe that takes a toll. And not just on how you play the game defensively, but, you know, it tests your structure and your systems and all of those things. So the fact that the Oilers put themselves in this position, why wouldn't they go all out and try and win the division? I mean, come on. There's added value in doing that, as we know. But the fact that they're here, given how they started the season, it's an incredible accomplishment.
What's really funny is we were looking at it today. If they track down the Canucks for top spot in the division, like as of this morning, the Golden Knights are still in a wild card spot, and it's just you could win the division and still get Vegas in the first round. I mean, Nashville and Los Angeles are still there as well. This really, I mean, I don't know how many preferred opponents there really are in the West. You're going to have to beat 3 really good teams to come out of the West. That's the bottom line. There's no cupcake matchup anyway.
No, pick your poison. And what we know is that at the conclusion of the first round, and for me, I'm drawn more to the West, we're going to be bellowing about the playoff matrix and how the league has got to do something about it because, so many cup contending teams are going to get dispatched in round one. That's just the way it's been. And that's the way it seemingly will always be, because then when we challenge the commissioner's office on why they don't consider either expanding the playoff picture or changing the matrix, you automatically get the pushback. No, it's good. It's fine. This is the way our managers want it. This is the way our owners want it. Every year it seems like the West is as good as there is, and often better than the East. I'm not sure that's the case entirely this year, but the stories are more compelling. And, you look at a team like the Dallas Stars, who maybe hasn't gone under the radar this year. That would be ridiculous to suggest. But, I don't know that they've also gotten enough credit for being as good as they've been. I still think Colorado is right there at the top of the food chain. And let's watch how much better the Vegas Golden Knights are going to get. Tomas Hertl is ready to make his Vegas Golden Knights debut. Might be too much to expect that, he's going to be a difference maker as soon as he steps onto the ice, but you kind of envision that. How motivated do we think this guy's going to be to go from where he was to where he is now? And he's healthy, and who knows how much more healthy the Vegas Golden Knights can get. So when you look top to bottom in the West, man, it's a fun conference to watch, and can't wait for the start of the playoffs because, again, there's going to be a lot of hand wringing when teams get through that first round, and some really good teams are kicked to the curb.
TSN's Darren Dreger with us on the Nielson Show this morning. Dustin Nielson, Lieutenant Eric, Edmonton Sports Talk. From the West to the East, Dusty's not having it, Darren, but that last race for the final wild card spot, it almost seems like a race to the edge of a cliff for all these teams, the Islanders, the Capitals, Penguins, Red Wings. Who gets it, and does it ultimately matter in the end?
It matters if the Pittsburgh Penguins nail down that playoff spot. And, it just matters from a bigger picture. And, the lore of some of the greats that we've seen historically, and Sidney Crosby most definitely has earned his place in the history books. But what he's done in marching the Pittsburgh Penguins to this position is built on legend. It is. And, he's not going to win the Hart. But if you're putting your ballot down and you've got 5 names on there, doesn't he have to be in the conversation of one of those 5 spots? I mean, we know McDavid is right there, or Nikita Kucherov, and you've got Nathan McKinnon, you've got Austin Matthews. I mean, go down the list here. I mean, it's going to be a complicated ballot and a fun one to put together. But if the Pittsburgh Penguins make the playoffs, and you look back at everything that Sidney Crosby has invested since just after the trade deadline to this point, now they need some help here. Pretty obvious they need some help. What's going to happen with the Washington Capitals with the games remaining? The Detroit Red Wings with a tough one yesterday. I mean, go down the list. But if Pittsburgh gets in, for me, that's going to be one of the top stories of the year, regardless of what they do in round one of the playoffs. It just will be. And it'll come at the expense of the Philadelphia Flyers, maybe the New York Islanders. Let's see how things play out. But the way the Penguins are going right now, man, with their goaltending, with Crosby, with everything, Malkin comes up hot the other day. It's aside from the mathematics here and what they need, it's hard to bet against the Penguins and everything they've got in terms of momentum at this stage.
Dregs, the Oilers and the Flames, hockey night in Canada, Saturday night. Obviously, the Oilers ended up getting the job done, but into the spotlight there with Corey Perry losing it on Evander Kane. And, a lot of people, will quickly say, don't read anything into it. I just think we can't gloss over it because 3 weeks ago we saw Draisaitl kind of aggravated with Kane as well. So, I don't know. How much do we read into this? And, somebody pointed out, he goes, Corey Perry, a veteran guy, obviously frustrated, has won basically everything you can win. He's trying to get Evander Kane to where he needs to be on the ice come playoff time, which I totally get as well. But I just find it interesting that 2 guys he would kind of view as leaders of the team voicing some frustrations with Kane.
And I'm okay with it. I am. I mean, the optics give us something to talk about, and we're speculating on what might have upset Corey Perry. And before that, Draisaitl tunes him up on the bench as well. I'm okay with it only if Evander Kane can keep it between the lines and be the player that the Edmonton Oilers need him to be in the playoffs. Because when this guy is playing, he is just a load to handle out there, right? When he steps onto that ice and he's committed to being a difference maker, and that comes in many different forms, doesn't it? It can be that getting under your skin, drawing penalties, going into scrums and creating a fracas, but also doing it and staying between those lines so you're not taking foolish penalties. The speed that Evander Kane can provide, the goals that he's capable of scoring, the level of toughness, hard on the fork. I mean, go on and on and on.
Yeah.
When this guy plays like he can as a complete package, he's a wanted player. He is, and he's a difference maker. So I think that's really what Draisaitl and Corey Perry and I'm sure Knobloch and the coaching staff of the Edmonton Oilers are trying to get out of this guy. They're just trying to fine-tune him because the mistakes that he's making or others are making or the inconsistency in how he's playing, we don't know what Perry was upset about, or at least I don't. I don't know. I don't remember him talking specifically about what he was upset about, or Draisaitl for that matter. But chances are it's about a play that wasn't made. Or why weren't you here when you know you're supposed to be there? That sort of thing, right? So it's probably more about the consistency or lack thereof in Evander's Kane that's frustrating these guys to this point.
Dregs, big plans for this eclipse today? Are you going outside to stare at it or what?
No, I don't really have plans for it other than I've got to take Tiny, the Great Dane, to the vet, just a routine thing.
Oh, okay.
And the veterinarian that we see on a monthly basis, that's comes with the territory. We got a big dog like this. They did warn. They said, look, just keep her out of the eclipse. We don't want your dog staring up at the sun and everything that's going on and damaging her eyesight. So, yeah, other than it's overcast right now as I look outside here, the home studio, it's cloudy. So maybe we're going to get cheated, but no plans to enjoy, observe, do anything eclipse related. Zero.
All right. Well, have a good trip to the vet, Dregs.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I appreciate it.
We'll talk to you next week,
care.
man. There you go. It's Darren Dreger with TSN, Rain Dregs podcast as well on all of your podcasting platforms. You can go check that out. I know many of you probably already have, but if you haven't, definitely worth checking out. Yeah, do not look at the sun today.